And we're back.
Welcome to No Direction Beyond, your Starfinder news, reviews, and interviews podcast. I'm Alexander Agunas, the Everyman Gamer, and I'm here today with someone thought long lost to the drift, the infallible Vanessa Hoskins.
Infallible? Oh.
Infallible.
It is true. I did Mary Sue my stats, so that's I rolled really high. What can I say? My lowest stat is a 6, but my second lowest stat is a 13. So,
Well, that 6 is definitely not in Constitution because you're back here and you're ready to go. And that's a great thing because our topic tonight really wants to have a great Constitution.
Tonight, oh my gosh, what a segue. Yes.
Listen, if there's one thing I'm good at, it's random segues.
I mean, you're not wrong.
So tonight we're going to be doing one of our class feature specials. We're talking about the newest class to join Starfinder. It's kind of overdue at this point because this book was going to be out in like late July, right?
I do not know. I've been in a social coma for the last 6 months, so.
That's fair. You have. So we're talking about Tech Revolution's Nanocyte class, and the Nanocyte was Tech Revolution was originally supposed to come out in like July for Gen Con, and like there's so much stuff happening in the world right now that Tech Revolution just kept getting pushed back like week by month. It's actually really funny to be friends with John Compton because like every week there'd be a new ominous scream in the void. And so, but now Tech Revolution is officially out. I have my copy in front of me that I got from my subscriber copy. Cool. And since this class is late, like I'm really sorry that so many of you who are listening to this are going to basically get to hear me talk about a class that you might not have in front of you. But Vanessa and I both have it. So we're going to tell you about the Nanocyte. And, in a couple of weeks, like everybody will have it. So it'll be fine. Am I right?
It'll be fine. I have a digital copy, which makes sense for a Starfinder product. It is made of electrons and not nanites, unfortunately, but I personally wish I had nanites right now because it is a pretty cool class that does a lot of cool things and in interesting and unexpected ways, I would say. Like there's a lot of things about this that surprised me that I was like, wait, they kept that? Or you can do what now? I'm ready to dig into this.
Yeah. So I think, as I mentioned before, the first thing to note is that this is Starfinder's second class that uses Constitution as its key ability score modifier, which means that this class is chonky. Like, it's not as chonky as the Vanguard. Vanguard has, what was that?
It's got 7 hit points and stamina per level instead of 6. So it's slightly chunkier, but only slightly.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, if you want maximum hit points, go Vanguard. But, like, the Nanocyte can be punched in the face and be okay. Or if you're the iconic Nanocyte, they've got, like, the eyes on top and the eyes on bottom. So it could be punched in the faces and be okay.
At the same time. Boom.
Yeah. Boom.
But you take -4 to each attack because you're... Never mind.
Yeah.
For Starfinder. From my perspective, I have the infamous Java, my Vanguard, so it was really difficult for me to not read this class as what if I built Java as a Nanocyte, and see our playtest episode for that idea. But as I'm reading it, I'm looking at it going, that's a lot like what the Vanguard does, but different. And so
what if I pumped this girl filled with robots?
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, if you pump her full of robots, she will be a Nanocyte. That is science.
So one of the things that this makes this class really different from the Vanguard is like it's a crazy hybrid between a combatant and a skills class, an expert. It's got 6 skill ranks per level, and it's got a pretty big class skill list. It's acrobatics, athletics, computers, engineering, life sciences, medicine, perception, physical science, piloting, profession, sleight of hand, and stealth. Like, that is a respectable list.
It's a good list. And the other thing that surprises me, and we're going to get into this shortly, is you know how every class has the insight bonus to one skill or another? And like, usually it's you pick one and you're stuck with it forever, right? You're like, I'm going to be the best pilot there is. I'm going to be the best at acrobatics that ever lived. And you're like, okay, that's your one thing. This gets a changing array of things, even on the fly, which is fantastic. It makes them a better skill monkey than pretty much anything, I think, than an operative who's the best at everything. But like it makes them a pretty good skill monkey.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's really strong. The nanites flexibility for this class, and actually compared to the playtest version, the flexibility looks good. But let's stop tantalizing these poor listeners, and let's give them some meat and potatoes. So the basic idea behind this class is that you have an array of nanites that are stored inside your body, and they pop out, and you use them to do things. And that list of things is controlled by an ability called Nanite Surge. And Vanessa and I were talking about Nanite Surge prior to the show. It's fine, but it's confusing because Nanite Surge is listed as the first ability in the entire class, right? That's not alphabetically appropriate. Like the next ability is Nanite Array. So like alphabetically, Array should come before Surge. And so you're like, okay, Surge is first, because what were we saying, Vanessa?
Yeah, it's a little weird. And I think it's because they're trying to present you with a concept in the right order rather than the words. And I understand that, but they kind of... They stumbled in that they give you Surge, and they're like, okay, so you have these nanites, right? And they can surge, and you can do it this many times a day.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, moving on. And you're like, I can do what that many times a day? You can surge your nanites.
It literally says the exact benefits vary by circumstance and are explained in abilities below. And I'm like, what are the circumstances? What are the abilities?
Like, it would have been cool to have a summary sentence that's like, you can make equipment or enhance your body or create a cloud. And you're like, oh, that sounds super cool. And then later they go into what those actually mean.
Yeah.
Rather than, you can do stuff. It's super cool.
Because what Nanite Surge comes down to is that it's basically a pool of points like a Magus and Pathfinder First Edition's Arcane pool or a Monk's Key pool. And that the ability itself literally, actually, those aren't even accurate because those abilities do stuff like without anything else. Like, you know, a Monk's Key pool has like a speed and extra attack component where you spend the points. That's just part of the Key pool ability. This is just like, you know, you have a point pool. Other class abilities spend them. And like, I'm like, oh, I don't know how this works. It's definitely an interesting choice. And I mean, I say I don't know how this works. That's not true. You read through and you start to figure it out. Yeah. But this class really could have used in that first ability, like your array and your Nax all, you know, have abilities that let you spend surges to do things. Like rather just saying like it's random.
It's
like,
it's a little bit about putting the mechanics before the flavor, which for me makes a more difficult read. I like to hear the flavor, and then it goes, but you can only do it 6 times a day, and you're like, that's fair. Versus you can do this number of times per day equal to this formula. Anyway, it's pretty cool. So let's get into it as a standard action. And I'm like, what does this even do? You lost me. Did I miss that part?
I mean, the answer is that Nanite Surge literally does nothing. It's just it's a pool of points you spend.
It's a pool of points.
It's weird because like. It's weird though, because it's like the opposite of the biohacker, right? Yeah. Where like the biohacker has literally the entire class written inside one ability, and it's biohacks.
It's like, here's what it does. This is it. Well, so Nanite Surge is huge for the class, obviously. Yeah. Nanite Surge is the reason to play the class. Let's talk about what it does.
Oh, you mean the array, right?
Well, I mean the array. Okay, Nanite Surge allows you to surge your nanites. What's that mean? You get to use your array in a cool way. What's the array do? It does everything. A few different things. It does everything. Well, let's get into it. So the first thing it does, and this is the part that got me excited, is a Sheath Array, which sounds like it might be dirty, and it's not. A Sheath Array, you cover the nanites over your body like a bodysuit, like you're wearing leggings, but for your whole body. And it grants you some bonuses on like reflex saves and some skills. Remember we talked about those shifting skill bonuses? This is where it comes in. So what's cool is they have this huge list, the small list. They have a list. It exists of skills you can do, and every single time you manifest a Sheath Array, you get to pick 2 of those skills and get an insight bonus. So if you're like, right now, I need to be super stealthy, you pick Sleight of Hand and Stealth. Or maybe you pick Acrobatics and Stealth because you're all ninja'd out. Or maybe you want to parkour across the battlefield and you pick Acrobatics and Athletics. It's up to you. And what's neat is they're all very like... with the exception of athletics, they're all dex-based, but they're all very, I don't know, action hero-y type abilities.
Yes. One thing that's really interesting about the Sheath Array is that you hear that description and you're like, oh, this is my out of combat array. That's not true. If you're in combat, the Sheath Array also gives you a bonus to reflex saving throws, and you get temporary hit points when if you spend a nanite surge forming it equal to your level. And it's like, oh, this is, and you just do it like every time you form the array. You're like, aha! I get more, and it's like it's one of the only things in the game that can give you temporary hit points that kind of doesn't have a strong limitation. Like at first level, you can do that 4 times per day. Like, you know, and every 2 levels,
assuming you max
more.
Constitution.
I mean, I guess I did assume that you were going to max Constitution. But.
I mean, you assume you could. We've talked before about how Starfinder you can do just fine with a 16 starting stat.
That's true.
But the way I would build my Nanocyte, the way I would build Yava the Nanocyte is with an 18. And I'm going to tell you that later. I need nothing but Constitution with this.
Listen, just take punches. It's fine.
Just take punches.
Now,
maybe nanite punches.
Maybe you're not somebody who wants like your millions of little nanites just creeping all over your skin. Maybe instead you want them flying around you in a big puffy ball of wonder. And if that's the case, you can literally form them into a cloud. And this is what I like to call the Big Hero 6 villain array. Because if your goal is to be the bad guy of the Disney movie Big Hero 6, where you just have your crazy microbots that you shape all around you, that's Cloud Array. You basically get to pick a bunch of 5-foot squares. It's 1 plus your con bonus in the number of squares. So if you have that 16, you're getting 4 squares of nanobots. And if you max it out, you're getting 5. One of those squares has to be adjacent to you. Right. And like they kind of, it's written in a way that makes it sound like they're supposed to be like in a group around you, but it's not really. It doesn't really make that clear if that's if that's the case. But in any way, you make a cloud. When you take a guarded step, it moves with you. Otherwise, it pretty much doesn't move. And the other really cool thing about it is that if you make a cloud and you're adjacent to it, you can guarded step through it. And when you guarded step through it, it moves you 10 feet instead of 5 feet. Because the nanobots literally just kind of like yeet, and you get pulled along by the nanobots. It's great.
They just sort of push you along.
Yeah. Now the nanobot cloud can be made denser, like by spending one of these nanite surges, and that causes you to have a scaling concealment. It's initially 10%, and as you level up, the concealment gets bigger, and the also the number of squares you get higher. So you can basically make this defensive cloud that also lets you just go woof, moving all over the place with your guarded steps.
And you ignore the concealment. Now, your allies still have to deal with it, but you ignore it. So it's a pretty good thing that you can shift into when you want to make an escape, perhaps, right? Let your allies get away, create a cloud that's harder to shoot through, harder to attack through, and like try to hold things at bay. It doesn't slow down movement or cause difficult terrain or anything, but it's still a very good defensive maneuver. And
the thing that's super cool about it is, like, if you want to be a real jerk, you can kind of like gently caress your enemies in your like you start like because you're probably, if you're melee, you got this big 2-handed weapon. Let's say you're Lauren and you're gonna make a Nanosite Viking.
Sure, okay, right.
And you're gonna make your Nanosite Viking, and you've got your big ultra thin Dashko, right?
Yep.
And,
big space axe.
Yeah, and you've got your cloud, and you just like kind of form your cloud around them. If they try to guarded step away from you and they're still close to your cloud, you could just take like the step up feat and just go whoosh and like just follow them and be like this.
Zoom around.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really cool. I really like it.
Yeah, it's very cool. I think it's one of those things that if you like, I don't know, situational combat and strategy, and you want to do like really creative, interesting things on the battlefield, Cloud Array is great.
Right. So there's one more array. That's Gear Array. And Gear Array is interesting because when we did the preview, I mentioned that I thought Gear Array was too complicated and it melted my brain. And do you remember I needed to have that separate table about what happens if you're a high-level nanocyte? Yes. Because like it basically was like, you feed the gear to the nano machines. Well, how many do I start with? Here's a complex table to tell you exactly. So like how it works now is that as you level up, you get a number of major forms, which are weapons and cybernetic augmentations, and then minor forms, which are technological items, not including weapons or armor, and personal items. And you have 2 major items at first level, 3 minor. You get a new minor form at second level and every 2 levels afterwards. And you get and you get a new major form at third, fifth, and every 4 levels. So you have much fewer major than minor.
Right.
And so the idea is that once you pick it, you kind of can't change it. You're sort of locked into the level that you got it, from what I'm reading. And you also can basically just use the array and be like, all right, I'm going to make it, boom. There's a whole list of special rules about like how you form it, where it goes. Like if you form a weapon, you don't need an action to pick it up. It just appears in your hand, which is really helpful. Then you can also just basically build cybernetic augmentations in your body. That's super cool.
That is actually really cool, because there's a lot of really good technological augmentations that are like, that's really neat, but I don't know if I want to spend all the credits on this for something that's situational. Well, this, you can be like, you know what? Maybe I'll have that as one of my forms, because I think I'm going to use this a decent amount of time, but not like all the time.
Right. Also, one thing you can do with this, you can take the X-legs augmentation that replaces your legs with those robot like spider legs, like the spider in Monsters Inc., and you could just like and charge around with it.
Or the treads.
Yeah, right. One thing that I really like that you could do with this is, if you really wanted to, you could play a character who's like lost an arm or something, or like a leg, and then they became a nanocyte later and just rebuild themselves in this arm, and that's how they go and they do stuff. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with this class.
Oh, sure. Well, my idea with Yava, because she's a Vanguard, is if she ever dies, I'm just going to ask my GM and say, hey, can I just bring her back as a nanocyte? Like they barely keep her alive, and then she gets nano augmentation, and all of a sudden she's a nanocyte? Because, I mean, that would be a cool how to save a character from permadeath story.
I feel like our GM would say sure.
I think so.
Yeah, I think he absolutely would.
He's like,
Raising Rune Lords in chat asks, does moving through clouds of smoke, etc., force you to reduce movement by half by default in Starfinder? I don't know if that's referring specifically to the Nanocyte. In terms of just regular smoke, I think it's just concealment. I don't think it reduces your movement unless like it's fog cloud and it specifically says your movement goes down. But
I think in full concealment, maybe.
Yeah, or like if you can't see, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, if you're blind. But this never gets to the level of full concealment. At most, it's 25%. So, it's good, but it's not flawless. And it specifically says it like doesn't allow you to hide, which makes me think that you can see the ground and such just fine.
Yes, definitely. So that's, and I mean, like, we're kind of like glossing over the complexities of gear array because there's a fair bit, but that's essentially how it works. And the answer is that it's much better. There's like literally, instead of having that like half a page table, it's like 3 sentences that explains how higher level nanocytes and gear array works. It's much better.
Yeah.
So from there, that brings us to the Nanite Faculties, which that's basically the Nanite's combat style, right? You pick a different way that your nanites do their job and how they interact with the world around you, and you get faculty techniques from it. We'll talk some about those later, but just keep in mind that they exist, and because they're primary, that implies that there is a secondary, and there is. You get 2.
It sure is. And this is like your soldiers fighting style, and a lot of these other sort of paths that you go on in classes. We've seen this all over Starfinder, so you should be familiar enough right now about what's your theme, and then you pick one and you get abilities based on it.
So at second level, you get an ability called Defensive Dispersal, and your next.
My gosh. No, I have thoughts about Defensive Dispersal. Go on.
No, you go first.
Oh my gosh. I have thoughts.
Are they good thoughts or are they bad thoughts?
They're both. So remember how I was talking about how I'm going to compare everything to a Vanguard? This is the first one where I went, wait, what? So Vanguard gets mitigate, right? As a reaction, you're like, no, and you stop some damage. But in practice, it's like a tiny bit of damage. So it's like you're going to receive a heap of damage, and you're like, I get a he of damage, and we just leave the P off, but it's still most of it. And that costs you a point. In this case, an entropy point. Well, for the nanite, they get Defensive Dispersal. Similar thing, right? Reaction, reduce the damage taken. But it's a whopping ton of damage. Now, the only thing I can think of is it's coming from a pool that can't be regenerated versus the Vanguard that has a pool that can be. But in terms of abilities I spend a reaction on and mitigate damage, Defensive Dispersal is way better.
It's definitely better. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned that entropy points regenerate and are
Right.
basically infinite, whereas this ability is like I got like 5 of these.
Yeah.
So I get that, but I also think you're right in that it's super cool. Like
Mm.
the formula for it is your level plus your con modifier. So that means like it'll reasonably taper out at 29 damage if you max out your con, like
Right.
by 20th level. And then it also gives you a circumstance bonus to the first saving throw against the effect that you make that you triggered it against. So like
Like
if you
poison or something, or
yeah.
disease.
So like if someone like fireballs or explosive blasts you, you can be like, all right, I'm gonna get a +1 to the saving throw, and even if I fail, I'm reducing the fireball damage by 29.
Oh
And
yeah,
I'm
that
like,
is
all right,
cool. I didn't
yeah,
think of that
it's
circumstance.
super good. The knacks are essentially the like operative exploit style mechanic of this class.
Yeah.
And that ability reads like all the other ones, two
Hmm.
and every two levels are after DC 10 plus half level plus con skill check DCs 10
Yeah.
plus 1.5 times. Like it's
We've played
normal.
this game before.
It's been out for 3 years or whatever. I
Yeah.
don't remember. The gap kind of erased a time before Starfinder from my mind, but
What's
that's fine.
interesting, so speaking of Starfinder, is definitely has this style to how they build classes, where they say you pick sort of a theme or a path, and you get certain preset abilities, but then you also
Mhm.
get these like choose your own abilities every 2 levels, right? Second, fourth,
Yeah.
sixth, etc. And then every couple times, like every 4 levels or so, we open a new pool of abilities that you can choose from if you want. And we've seen this before, but I actually really like this class design. I think it's something really smart that Starfinder has done, because the thematic ones all sort of fit together. And if, as a designer, you want to put things together that are like, yeah, this would be cool, but you need this other ability, it goes great in a theme. But if there's
Yep.
something standalone that's like, well, this is just cool by itself, then you can put it in this other pool. And that mix and match really gives you a lot of interesting
Mhm.
and meaningful choices. And so we get to see that here. And they're super cool.
I agree. Now, third level is just weapon specialization.
Hmm.
This is a good time to point out, though, that the Nanocyte gets a great list of weapon proficiencies. They get small arms, long arms, basic melee, and advanced melee.
Hmm.
Uh, it's just really good. Like,
And it's really easy to get more weapons as part of those knacks we were looking at. Some of
yeah,
them are, oh, by the way, also heavy weapons. Wait, what? Also heavy armor. Wait, what? Like, it's just, you
yeah.
can just add things to it. It's so cool.
Indeed. And at third level, your other neat ability that isn't just a damage bonus is called Cyto Conversion. This is basically you gain limited like versions of the construct immunities. You get
Mm-hmm.
bonuses against things that constructs are normally immune to: bleed, disease, poison, sleep. And if someone crits you, you get a 10% chance to treat it as a normal hit. And those bonuses go up at 10th and 16th to +2 and 20%, and then +3 and 30% respectively. It good job, very good.
Our very own Katsuni Warlock in chat is referring to the weapon proficiencies and says, and super, super, super small arms, very tiny little hands, billions of tiny small hands.
I still like John's idea. You were out for this one. Are you familiar with the Spathinae species from Alien
Yes.
Archive, where it's like a swarm of bugs?
Yes, I absolutely want to play a nanocyte
his,
that is a Spathinae.
his concept that he pitched for a nanocyte was one of them, and that every component, like every little bug in the swarm, was filled with 1 billion nanites.
Oh, see, I was actually thinking it's just a swarm of them, but each of them has an iPad, and the iPad are the nanites.
But that's also really good, though.
And they're like, what are you going to use your iPad for? We're going to use it as a shield. And they hold it out. And you're like, we're going to use it for sleight of hand. How do you do that? And they start Googling it on the iPad.
Milo V3 wants to point out that the Spathinae have a -2 con. That's never stopped me before. I had a Kitsune blood rager in first edition Pathfinder. I will not be stopped by numbers alone.
That's right. Concept is
Um,
all.
Indeed. Now, speaking of cool things that hit the class's concept really well, at 7th level, you get Manifold Array, which is
Mhm.
exactly what it sounds like. You could have multiple arrays active at the same time.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, if you're Vanessa and you just want to be sheathed all the time, but you also want a dope gun, like you can have them both.
Yes.
Enjoy.
I
Um,
want that. Let me be level 7, please.
yeah, well, I mean, at level 15, you can have 3 of them active.
What?
Yeah, the
Let me
15 you
let
can
me
have three.
let me be level 15, please.
Yeah, exactly. We got to start playing that devastation arc adventure path so you can be level 15.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
Manifold Array is actually really good because before
mhm.
that, you have to choose a lot of the time. You're like, well, oh, do I want this or that? And at least at level 7, you can have your sheath going at all times, which, how did you know, is basically my build.
I did it. I figured it out.
You figured it out. I'm not that hard to figure out. I'm actually not very complicated.
I
Uh,
mean, I figured you wouldn't want weapons because you would just take improved unarmed strike and be a punch girl. So like it would have to be Cloud and
I
Sheath.
would not. I have a better one, but we'll get to that. So
Oh no.
okay, so Manifold Array, when you get that secondary one, it does count as your Nanocyte level -4. So your primary still counts as your full level, but the secondary is as if you were third level, essentially. And it will always be 4 levels behind. So your secondary one is truly secondary. But like if you need that cool sheath and then you just need like a little cloud, I need a little baby cloud, you can still get your concealment. And honestly, at 7th level, that 1 hit point per level you're missing from the Vanguard, I'll take that for a 10% mischance on me, sure.
Right. And what's also interesting is that the ability calls out that you could have multiple clouds or pieces of gear active at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you really wanted to, you could have you could literally like triple the number of cloud squares that you have. So now all of a sudden you're like Sonic the Hedgehog grinding 5-foot steps along your array. Like it's yeah, you're rolling around at the speed of sound. It's great.
Or if you're like a small arms specialist at 7th level, you can be like, and now I'm in a dual wield and I have like a main hand pistol and an offhand pistol, and you're just pew, 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 all over the place.
And
one thing we should definitely point out.
What should we point out?
So for guns and things that use ammunition or batteries, you still need to supply the battery or the ammo. So you can't just be like, I have a rocket launcher, haha, no, and like all the rockets are made out of nanites. It does not work. You need to say, my rocket launcher is made of nanites, but I still need that ammunition. I can't make grenades. I can't make anything consumable.
You know what you do?
What?
You flavor your nanite cloud as if it were like a hungry Pac-Man, and you just like yeet the missiles into the hungry Pac-Man, and it turns into the gun for you.
Oh my god!
here, nano cloud. Here's a Scooby snack. It's just a missile.
Just a missile, and the cloud eats it and turns into a rocket launcher and fires it.
Amazing.
That's so good.
Yeah. Moving on with the class, at 9th level, you get that secondary faculty and that secondary technique we mentioned. Basically, it's like the soldier. You get it at 9th level, and so it's a level. Your level for calculating its abilities is 8 lower, so you get it at a reduced rate, and you won't max it. But some of the combinations that we'll talk about are pretty crazy.
I can't wait to hear your combinations on, honestly. I looked at the arrays, and I like a lot of them, but I couldn't really decide on one for my build, so maybe you can help me figure one out.
All of them. You got to take all of them.
All of them. Okay, wow.
I don't know how you're going to do that. You're going to have to bribe our GM with a cookie, but you can do it.
Easy.
And then 11th level, you get eternal nanites. Every time you spend a resolve point and regain stamina points, you also regain a use of your nanite surge ability. And then at 18th level, you regain 2 use abilities when you do it. And then if you spend, and then if you spend a resolve point to gain the benefits of a nanite surge, because like one of the abilities for nanite surge is that you could basically spend resolve instead of spending surges, and if you do that, you regain a use as part of it at 18th level.
Kind of becomes a BOGO.
Yeah, it's great. It's just so many.
Buy one surge, get one free.
Yeah, pretty much. At 19th level, you get Living Legion, which is your secondary nanite arrays level goes up to -2 instead of its previous. What? And then your tertiary goes to -4. So
that is so cool.
To mention before, at 15th level, it was -4 to your secondary, -8 to your tertiary. Right. That's halved at 19th level.
Wait, so if 4 levels later, after you get the 3rd one, everything gets a boost. So there's like a tiny little period where you're like, I have this really terrible 3rd array. I don't know what I'm going to use it for. Like a combat knife. It's not that good. And then all of a sudden, like 4 levels later, you're like, oh wait, no, it's good again.
Yeah, it's good.
Sorry about that, everyone. Sorry to scare you. It's a good one.
Yeah, I'm also great. It's fine, guys. I'm great. And then your final ability, the capstone for this class, is called Infinite Array. So you always have to wonder, what it means about the class when the first ability says once per day when you die from massive damage.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, or when you die from having 0 hit points and insufficient resolve points to stay in the fight, you can activate an emergency healing protocol.
Cool.
It takes no action. Then once you do it, your body and all of your equipment disperse into nanites, fly 30 feet, and then reform into a new version of your body, completely restoring you to life.
This is like Dracula the nanite version.
Yeah, you are nanite Dracula.
Do you have to have a nanite coffin for them to land in, or is it just?
No, but you appear upright, wielding any equipment, any combination of armors and equipment in your possession. You regain all of your stamina points. You have 1 resolve point left, and you have 1 hit point left. And then on your next turn, you act normally.
That is insane. That is so cool.
It's super cool. And then my only concern with that is that I've never knocked someone in Starfinder enough to kill them. So I feel like massive damage will happen more than the other one. But that's fine.
Well, I'll just have to. If it does happen, and you're the nanite, you're the Nanocyte, and you're standing there, and you're like, "Why did you have to kill the Vanguard? I'm right here." At 20th level, you also can, as a reaction, just use it on your buddy. And be like, haha, Vanguard's dead. I am the better tank, but that's fine. I got you. And you just turn them into a swarm of nanites.
I love the idea that your nanites just break apart your ally and rebuild them.
It's kind of gross if you think about it. Like, if you're a Nanocyte, you're probably used to whatever, my body's malleable. In fact, there's abilities in here that are literally like, I just turn into a cloud. It's fine. But then all of a sudden to do that to your poor Vanguard buddy who's just standing there and is like, I'm out of chaos. And you're like, well, I guess you're dead. You can just be like, wait, no, I know. I'll rip your body apart into a bunch of little tiny pieces and then put it back together 20 feet that away.
Yes, it's very cool. I really like it. It's a very interesting capstone. That's for sure. The capstone is, you think you're dead. People die only when I allow it, and I only allow it after 1 person has died today.
That's right. Because then I can't use this again. So don't die a second time, please.
Yes. So now after that, we've got Nanosite Faculties, which are the fighting styles of this class. Vanessa and I are going to go over them pretty quickly because we could sit here for the next hour talking about all of these. Yes. And I'm actually really surprised at how diverse they are. So the first one, quick summary, this is SparkNote's version, and then Dee and I will talk a little bit about each of them.
All right, you go.
Discorporation is the ability for your nanites to break down and reform your body. It kind of makes you amorphous. Infestation has your nanites injure your allies by burrowing into them, which is terrifying sounding. Obliteration is your nanites. Your nanites empower your body so that you can destroy things faster. So rather than rip people apart, they just make you easier for you to kill stuff. Redirection allows your nanites to defend you better. They block and redirect attacks. Regeneration causes you to heal your wounds or your wounds, the wounds of your allies. So that is the brief summary of all of the different faculties.
All right. So quick question. For Yava, the Punch Girl tank, which of these would you recommend?
Obviously, obliteration. You get
obliteration.
you get unstoppable nanites, and all you would have to do is use it to get the cestises, which are gloves that fit over your hands, or even flame gloves. Yeah, and
that's true.
Unstoppable nanites causes those weapons you form to gain the penetrating weapon special ability, which means they ignore hardness equal to your weapon's level. So you just form the best weapon you can and punch through walls. You also gain the boost weapon special property, and it doesn't cost charges. It starts at D4 damage. Yeah, you just boost. You're boosted, as James would say. If James was here, that's what he would say.
You're boosted.
Yeah, your boost is 1d4 damage. It increases to d6 at 5th level and goes up by an additional d6 at 9th level, 13th, and 17th levels. So by the time you're done, it's got 1d6, 2d6, 3d6, 4d6 bonus damage as a move action. And you just punch through walls.
Right.
Your fifth level ability is when you're wielding a weapon you form with your array, like your punch
Mm-hmm,
club.
mm-hmm.
You can take a swift action to change half or all of the damages type to cold, electricity, or fire to the beginning of your next turn. It's basically a weaker version of the Witch Warper's shifting surge spell at will with no cost.
That's super cool.
Yeah. The only downside is that it doesn't change whether the weapon targets KAC or EAC, but you don't care. You have a full base attack bonus. Just punch them.
That's true. You do.
Yeah.
Okay. You're starting to sell me. Except the idea I had doesn't rely on a weapon. So
Okay.
I was thinking regeneration is pretty cool, just for that constant, like, especially like her backstory of being like mortally wounded and then fixed with technology. I think regeneration works pretty cool. So that's one I would have chosen. But I like obliteration maybe as a secondary or for later because it is pretty cool.
Well, I mean, that one is really cool because the fifth level ability for regeneration is called Nano Medicine, which is you can use con instead of intelligence for medicine checks, and you can use medicine to treat any creature adjacent to your nanite cloud as if they were adjacent to you.
That's pretty cool.
So you can literally form your cloud and then have it go near somebody who's dying and then just stabilize them. Or if your cloud's already out, you stabilize people. You can also do first aid as a swift action or treat deadly wounds as a full action, which means it normally takes a minute or it normally takes longer. But you can do it as treating deadly wounds is normally like 10 minutes. That's the one that heals hit points.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay.
So you could spend a nanite surge to do those. And it also works on any creature in your cloud. So you could be like, cloud, go, full action, heal, or just keep your friends in your cloud. And if they get hurt, you could just be like, full action, I heal that person.
I really like this idea. I think that's very cool. Okay, so I've got some choices, but let me tell you, this is the build I had in mind. So there's Nanocyte Nax, right? All the different abilities that you can choose. These are the a la carte ones, right? That you get at 2 and 4 and 6 and all that.
Yeah.
There is a second level ability, so the build doesn't quite work till second level, called Swarm Strike.
Okay.
So whenever you're in your Sheath Array, so it's not the weapon one, it's a specifically Sheath Array. So you got the nanites all around you. You can use a nanite surge to gain a special unarmed strike that does lethal damage and uses your con mod for attack and damage, which is pretty cool. Like, to me, that's the ultimate punch girl. Now, the downside is you have to use a nanite surge for it.
Right. Now, do you have to spend a surge? Oh, no. What does it say that the surge lasts as long as you have your Sheath Array?
It says you can use a nanite surge to gain it. I think so. As long as I don't take the Sheath Array down, I think I just get to keep punching people with nanites.
Yeah, because it says that you can use a nanite surge to gain a special unarmed strike that deals lethal damage. I don't see anything that says that you actually need to that it has a duration. I think it's just while the surge is active.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I think that sounds legit to me. I mean,
and you get the improved weapon specialization on it too, the 1.5 times. So it's actually pretty decent damage. You only need Constitution, which should be your best anyway. It is a little expensive, but still.
But none of that matters because at 7th level you gain the thrown 20 feet special property with your unarmed strike, so you can just hit people 20 feet away with your. No, this is amazing. That's really good.
This is what I'm saying. This is the build, which is why I don't know which of those other ones to choose. I could do obliteration when it's in weapon form, but I don't need weapon form. I've got this. It would be like a backup. Although that might still do more damage, so it's hard to say. But I really like the bonus from the Sheath Array. I think it's super cool. So it's hard to pass up a Swarm Strike build. Really difficult to pass that up. So I don't know.
I mean, looking at the faculties, Discorporation is the only one that has an ability at first level that doesn't really clash with that. That has reactive spray. So when you take damage from an enemy, you can use a reaction to form a temporary cloud array, and it says it lasts till the end of your turn and doesn't count against the maximum number of arrays you have. So if someone punches you, you can trigger your reaction and form a cloud array around you to gain the benefit. I mean, that's cool. That's pretty cool, especially since it specifies that you form the cloud array. So I imagine that fits with things that require you to have that array active. Now, the thing that's interesting is none of the faculties do a whole lot with the Sheath Array, but in second level, a lot of the Nax do. Like you just mentioned, Swarm Strike. Surgical Host also specifies that it only works with Sheath Array as well. And then so does Agile Host. It lets you apply the bonus from your Sheath Array to initiative checks. So you just got to go quick. Is good.
Yeah. So that was sort of my build. Is the idea is like always in Sheath Array or usually in Sheath Array, so that I can get those cool swarm strikes. Probably pick Agile Host at 4th level, and then go from there and get all the boosts to make Sheath Array just the best array ever.
I mean, you probably want versatile nanites then, because that knack gives you the ability to pick medicine, which would synergize with regeneration if that's what you took. You would pick either bluff, disguise, engineering, medicine, perception, or piloting, and add those skills as an option for your Sheath Array.
Yeah.
And you can select the knack as multiple times, selecting different skills each time. That's
cool.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I like facial recognition at 6th level, where your Sheath Array reshapes your face for the purpose of like disguise checks, which is pretty cool.
That is really cool. That's a whole other character concept, but holy mackerel, is that a cool one?
Yeah, heavy weapon edge is really good too, because it lets you, it gives you free proficiency with heavy weapons, gives you weapon specialization with them, and it lets you, lets one of your major forms be heavy weapons instead of the normal type. And you get to use your con modifier instead of your strength score when determining if you can wield a heavy weapon.
Yeah, that's all amazing.
Yeah,
although I just came up with a really fun idea.
Yeah.
T1000. You pick all of the ones. Yes. Well, you pick all. Well, like, isn't the T1000 this liquid metal one? I was just thinking you be an android, or I guess an SRO, but I was thinking an android, and then do the one that changes your face and like all of these other ones. Oh my gosh, that's such a cool idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good ones. Some of the capstone abilities include Charge Vampire, where your nanite cloud can just suck electric charges out of items. And there is Rapid Reshape, where every 1d4 rounds, you can switch your arrays as a swift action without using a nanite surge. You just...
That's really cool.
There's Thousand Stitches, which is you can treat deadly wounds as a standard action all the time with your surgical host knack. And you restore double hit points, 2 hit points per level or CR. And if you exceed by 5, you add both your intelligence and your con to the amount healed.
That is so cool.
It's really strong. If you want to be a nanocyte who's got strong healing abilities, like, you can do it. I'd argue that it's actually probably a little bit better than the baseline biohacker, even with the new cyber medicine option in this book.
Would you pair this with the doctor archetype that allows you to overheal into stamina?
You could just be like, hey, guess what? Now the thing that I am curious about is it says you can use the medicine skill to treat creatures within or adjacent to your cloud arrays if you were adjacent to them. And it says you can use a swift action to treat deadly wounds as a full action for creatures in your cloud. I wonder if you would get to use these benefits with spray flushes, because spray flush is kind of like the necessary item for medicine. It basically lets you spray. If you have medicine, you can spray the goo onto people, and it lets you treat deadly wounds on them even if they've already hit their maximum for the day.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so I wonder, because if you could, it'd be really good. And it's like you're just spraying the goo from your thing. I need to stop saying that. It's awful.
Please stop spraying goo. This is a family show.
Yeah, I think that it's just I'm trying to find the ability, looking it up. It's surgical host.
Yeah, there's just so many abilities in here that almost based on the ability gives me an idea for another character, like the super spy with facial recognition, facial reconfiguration, where you're like, I look like a different person. There's for Java, I would pick Alacritus form that just says, oh, if you're in Sheath, which, let's face it, your land speed increases. And it's like, okay, I want to be faster. So many cool things. Instant Architect. You get Barricade as a bonus feat, and you can just make a barricade in your cloud rather than an adjacent space. So you're like, there's a barricade there, and create pinch points on the battlefield. As I said, cloud really seems like the strategist's build, right?
Yeah, it does. I agree. The section ends with 2 sample nanocytes. There's the battle host, who's like, I make weapons and blow people up, and then there's the living plague, which is you disintegrate people with yours. The art is exactly what John Compton talked about the last time we had him on to talk about how the playtest went. Okay. It's got this wispy quality to it, where the nanites almost look like sparkling dust flying around the character. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, if you ever wanted to say my character wields a nebula from Star Trek, then this is the class for you.
Agreed. So looking at chat, we have a couple comments. We have Severin Lorat says, well, you're free of all, I don't know what that has to do with anything. So I'm going to skip to Evil Robot Games, who says, yeah, it says free of all your debts except for student loans, can't be discharged with organruptcy. I don't know what that means. But wow, I don't know where that post went. I just read it.
Loses something from the context.
Yeah, I guess the nanites took my brain. The gap got me, guys.
They were talking about getting a new body. So they were saying that like if you died and a nanocyte used that capstone ability to make you alive and rebuild your body, if it's a new you, do you still have all your debts from before? Because you're a new person, right? You just got rebuilt. So they were saying maybe like you'll be free of all those debts except student loans because you can't discharge those.
I mean, you'll have to ask Star Trek, right? They die every time they teleport, if I'm mistaken. Is that right?
That is a horrific view of that. They do not die. They are just rebuilt with different atoms.
I failed to see the difference, but that's okay. VVHY24RCL, I don't know what that stands for, says hasn't heard us say anything different from the playtest. I would say the big things that are different from the playtest is that the gear array is simpler and easier to use, and
yes,
that's kind of the major one. I think like I think that most of this does look like what we saw in the playtest. So yeah.
Probably if you loved little tweaks here and there to make things a little easier, which is great. But it sounds to me like they're pretty happy with their feedback then from the playtest.
Oh, it's Wizard, like wizard, but Wizard. Okay, I like it. That's funny. All right. So how about we've been talking about the Nanocyte for almost 50 minutes now, and our time is usually about an hour, so we're coming up towards the end. Do you want to give any thoughts you have on this class, V?
Yeah, I really want to play one, and I don't know if I want to play the Java version or a whole different one, but my proclivities tend toward a fast, sheathed in nanite person running around, sometimes being like, I guess my cool armor sheath could become a ladder, or a weapon, or just a random cloud for some reason. But I also really like your idea of using all the Nano Medicine in the clouds and all of that stuff, maybe even the doctor archetype, to just be like the team surgeon who uses nanites for whatever reason. Like, it's better to do microsurgery this way. And then just like acting as the team healer. I think that's a really cool idea, especially if you're playing a limited magic game where like, no one's going to be a spellcaster, or we're going to try to do without spells.
I think this class is going to end up needing not errata. I think it's going to need FAQs because there's a lot of basic rules for how things work that then it's not clear how they would work with the arrays. Like I'm not being sure whether you can combine spray flesh with a gear array or with the cloud array to do those shenanigans. Because if you can only heal each ally once and not use that very important item to do it multiple times, then it's kind of like what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? I think this class, now that we've had 4 new classes for Starfinder, we've had the Vanguard, we've had the Witch Warper, we've had the Biohacker, and now we've had the Nanocyte, and we're about to get the Precog in a couple months. Now that we're here, I don't think that these books give enough space to these classes. This doesn't feel like enough to me. Specifically, I don't think there are enough NACs. I think this needed about 4 pages more of NACs, especially at low level. Like this doesn't look like enough.
I mean, I just counted. There's like 9 choices at second level, and you're going to get 2 of those before you open up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. So there's a lot, I think, that's in there. The difference is certain things like Agile Host, where you get to add your bonus to initiative checks, is powerful at any level. Like you get it at second level if you want, but it's a viable choice as you go on. Myriad forms is another one. Learn 3 additional minor forms. Those are like the items and things that you can create your nanite array. Like that it seems like not that good until you're the umpteenth time going, no one has a flashlight, really? That you just decide, like, I need myriad forms to add more stuff into my toolkit so I can just make it on the fly, or
Yeah,
whatever. Like, there's a lot of actually surprisingly powerful things where you're like, that one seems like a waste of an ability until you don't have a flashlight. There's just a lot of things in here that I kind of think, like, I don't know, I maybe not, like, I wouldn't waste a 10th level knack on that, but I don't know, 6th or 8th level maybe. I don't
I
know.
also
There's a
I
lot.
I also think there are a couple options that are put at higher level places than they should be. Like,
Mm,
I think that for a full BAB class, heavy weapon edge being 6th level is a little too high. I actually think that should be a 2nd level option. I think that is
mm.
more reasonable because this class could reasonably take that feat at 1st level. Like, and I think that that would be better. I also think that another one is the medicine one that we talked about, where the benefit is that you basically just get to use medicine like almost like what somebody who specialized in intelligence would be.
Oh,
Uh,
got it.
yeah, I think that should be a little bit lower. So like I think there are a couple ones that kind of float around. And I think one of the other things about about the Nax that kind of isn't
That's
great
true.
to me, I think that the classes Nax inadvertently make you specialize in an array when ideally you would want to be able to use all of your arrays well. I think that these Nax should have been a little bit longer and they should have had multiple options for like each array. Like, maybe
Hmm.
if you had heavy armor edge, for example. I mean, that's not a really good one because you can use that one in all arrays. But
True.
like it for a surgical host, it says while within reach of your cloud array, you can perform medicine checks on creatures nearby the cloud. And then, maybe like they could have had something for like if you were doing Sheath Array, then you got a different benefit because they were close to you. And if you were
Mm.
doing Gear Array, maybe you automatically got medical gear for your ability. Well, I mean, you already
Oh, I
get,
see what you're saying.
but
Yeah.
you know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like, it
Yeah.
wouldn't it
Okay.
it would be cool if it lets you spend like if Gear Array let you spend a nanite surge to just automatically attempt to heal someone as if you were using a spray flush, as an example, or like it lets you pick medicinals and you could use those by spending nanite surges. I feel like you could have had the Nax be more applicable to all of the arrays, and it would have been cool because rather than specializing in an array, you
Gotcha.
would be like broadly just having a theme and all of your arrays were better at doing that thing you wanted to do.
See, because I understand where you're going with that, but I know for me, when I'm creating a character, when I'm a player, I
Yeah.
look at things like this and I immediately want to specialize, right? I immediately want to say, how can I make Sheath the coolest array? How can I make Cloud the coolest array? And that's the thing I do.
Mhm.
So maybe it's just my instinct as a player, and perhaps the designers had that same instinct and they're like, well, this is how people build characters, so let's help them out by saying, here's a cool Sheath option, here's a cool Cloud option, here's a cool weapon option.
Mhm.
But I do understand like the need to say I want to use all the arrays. I want to keep switching between them, and have benefits for multiple. I don't want to just be like, well, now my Sheath is better than everything else, so I kind of want to use that all the time. So I understand that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
So maybe we needed 4 more pages of arrays that had more options that applied to all of them instead of changing anything. I'm gonna do my
Uh,
my best Agatha Harkins wink.
yeah, maybe two more, like one more spread, maybe.
Now listen,
The
it
other
just
thing I wouldn't have minded is, and this kind of goes to what you were saying,
mhm.
looking through a lot of the we would call them the faculties, right? The different
Yeah.
build paths you can go on. Is a lot of them are based on specific things. Like obliteration is based on using the weapon array. So if you
Mhm.
choose obliteration, weapon is going to be your best one because all of your cool powers go to weapons and make them better. So that's the one you're going to want to use a lot, which again goes to that design idea of people are going to specialize in one array even though you can make three. I would have liked to have seen one that is a little bit more generalist, right? At least one option that's like, you know what? It doesn't matter what array you're using. Here's cool ways that your nanites do things.
Indeed, I agree. Well, it's just about the end of our time. So overall, my final impressions of the Nanosite is that it's really cool, and I'm hoping that we get some more stuff building on this pretty soon.
Hmm. Yeah, me
And
too. I want to build one.
I'm it definitely makes me excited to see what the precog is going to look like when it comes out in a couple months.
Oh my goodness. All these classes.
I know. It's like someone at the design company realized, like, oh man, these classes, players like classes. They want to do the things, and they want to beat the bad guys with strange new powers. It's really
We
good.
do.
I'm
It's
doing.
true. We got to beat them.
Yeah, we got to beat them. And so thanks for joining us here at No Direction Beyond. If you want to beat all the bad guys with us, make sure you go to our website, which is nodirectionpodcast.com, where we have all sorts of helpful blog entries and podcast video links and all sorts of other fun stuff that you can check out to help you beat whatever enemies that you are fighting, whether you're doing Starfinder, Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and hey, sometimes other systems too.
Sometimes other systems too.
Yeah, sometimes, maybe. We play a lot of games. And then we also have our Discord, which is
Yes.
one of the chillest and most toxic-free places on the internet. If you want a link to it, you can go to the website that I just mentioned, and we got a big Discord banner that you click on, and you're welcome to come in if you need a cool place to talk about these types of tabletop RPGs, and you don't want to be in a place that's filled with toxicity, because man, oh man, you've never seen someone wield a band hammer with as much speed and finesse as some of our mods. They're like, no, you will hurt no one. Critical hit, limit break.
Okay. It is a very good place to talk about what's going on in the Paizoverse, and also, continue the conversation on nanosites. Like, what are you going to build? What's your idea? Do you have tech revolution? Are you drooling over those who do? Ha ha! So come join us and chat.
Right. Next week, I think we are doing a No Direction Prime podcast on here at Twitch, which is going to be something super cool. I'm sure. I don't get told these secrets.
Okay.
I just sit in my own little corner, and I'm like, the Starfinders, we must plan them. And but we'll be doing that. And then the week after, it will be a Geek Together episode. Then it'll be another No Direction Prime. And then in about a month, 4 weeks later, we will see you again. The topic, good.
I was going to say, for now, definitely keep talking to us on Discord. Come back to Twitch. Sorry, I almost messed that one up. Come back to Twitch every Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and enjoy some fantastic No Direction content. And if you really like us and think we're super cool, you can become a patron and on Patreon and help support the network so you can get more awesome shows like this.
Literally everything we do happens because of our lovely patrons, and we try to help them out. After our shows, we hang out on our Discord, and you can chat with one or sometimes both of the hosts, depending on how we're feeling. And we chat for usually like somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour. So I will be in Discord after this show. Feel free to stop on by if you want to hear me just spoil large swaths of Tech Revolution and just gush over how amazing the Technomancer options are. I just don't even know how to tell you how great they are, V.
Save it for the patrons.
I'm gonna save it for the patrons. They support us. Thanks as always for listening, and until next time, go beyond with No Direction.